Whether you love or hate the Red Hot Chili Peppers, there's no denying that John Frusciante is one of the most influential guitar players of the last 30 years, creating some of the most memorable riffs, guitar parts, and tones. Today we're going to debunk the biggest myth that people have when it comes to recreating his iconic sound. The gear John Frusciante uses is definitely no secret by now. He's been seen with absolutely massive pedal boards with a ton of different effects, but there is one element that is widely misunderstood. Other than his love for vintage Fender Stratocasters, usually deploying a Sunburst or Olympic White Strat from the 60s, plugged into some classic Marshall amplification, usually in the form of a Plexi and a Silver Jubilee, the one thing people don't get right is his use of compression. Both natural compression, using compression as effect, and of course studio compression. Many people claim that Frusciante doesn't use compression at all, and any compression you hear is just coming from his amps turned up loud. That is true to some extent, but really the next song completely debunks this line of thought. Everyone knows this iconic song and of course its iconic guitar intro, and this is one of the prime examples of where Frusciante is using compression quite literally as an effect. Usually compression is used quite subtly, either to give your guitar a bit more sustain or glue guitar parts together, but in this case you can actually hear Frusciante absolutely squashing his attack and dynamic range of his guitar for this legendary riff. Frusciante has been seen to be using an MKII Dynacomp on his board, so it's safe to assume that's what he used on this song. It definitely doesn't sound like compression that was added in post. I'm using the Universal Audio Max compressor for this. It actually has an MKII Dynacomp mode in the pedal, as well as some classic studio compressor modes, so I thought it'd be perfect for this video. The amp I'm using, just like Frusciante, is a Plexi style amp. Next up, we're going to take a look at another song that is also heavily compressed, especially in the verse parts. As you can hear there, it really gets that classic Red Hot Chili Peppers sound, especially in the verses. However, you could use compression much more subtly a lot of the time to get more sustain from your clean tone, and that's what John Frusciante actually does quite a lot as well. Especially when you're using something like a Strat that is quite low output and quite weedy sounding, compression can really come in handy, just like in this next song. So there you go, there's a few examples of where an MKII Dynacomp with heavy compression really comes in handy. Next up, we're going to look at some more songs that use more subtle uses of compression, more namely compression that you probably added in the studio via classic rack mount units. For this riff, studio compression is a must for two reasons. It's a really tricky riff, and having a little bit of compression just to even out the notes and make them all the same kind of level really helps this riff sound much more clear, especially for a recorded track. You can't really hear the compression on the main riff. That's exactly how compression is greatly used, but as soon as we get to the chorus with the heavier strumming, you can actually hear the compressor starting to squash the dynamic range a little bit as well. I use the 1176 mode in the Universal Audio Max to replicate those 1176 rack units, which is an absolute staple in many studios around the world, and probably what Frusciante's guitar part was run through for this song. Next up, another example of more subtle compression, studio compression again, come from an 1176 style compressor. Wait a minute, a quick little message. My good friend Henning has just released a brand new songwriting course. Henning is a big old nerd. He actually even went to Berkeley. He really knows his stuff when it comes to composing, arranging, and producing. And knowing Henning, he never does things by half measure. This course is super in depth and can really set you up for writing songs of your own. Everything you need is in there, from harmony, composing. The course is actually around 50 hours long and covers absolutely everything you need to know to start writing songs in the best way possible. For the first 2 weeks, this course is on sale, so if you want to learn something from a big old nerd, go down into the description, click on the link, and check out the course for yourself. So there we go, debunking the biggest myth of John Frusciante's iconic sound, being that he just doesn't use compression, when quite obviously he does, sometimes in really heavy ways and sometimes in much more subtle ways. Of course, there is a natural amount of compression coming from his loud Plexis, but again, to get that heavily squashed sound, you need a compressor pedal, and to even glue his Plexi sound together, because Plexis are pretty dynamic, especially when running clean, and an 1176 style compressor really comes in handy. And as we saw in this video, there's quite a few examples of where Frusciante is doing just that. You can replicate his tones very easily with pretty much any compressor pedal, but having the Universal Audio Max to give you the MKII Dynacomp style compression and the 1176 rack unit compression in one unit really comes in handy, and it's a great mainstay for your board. It even has a preamp in there, so you can add some tube preamp flavor goodness to your rig too without actually running through a studio console. So let me know, what are some of your favourite John Frusciante tones, and what do you think are the most important pieces to give for his sound other than his Strat and his Marshalls? Would it be the DS2? Would it be the CE1, especially the preamp in the CE1, or something else completely? Let me know down in the comments. If you like the video, please leave a like, comment and subscribe, and hit the little bell notification for me as well. That way you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. And right now there's another video on screen that you can click if you want to check it out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.